content covered may be graphic in nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Witchcraft.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely it's really just
I love stories like this because it's
someone scared to death.
Yeah, that's a real thing.
There are countless stories
that you shouldn't fuck with.
Right, and the JFK assassination limo.
Real.
From the mistake on the lake, deep within the great American Rust Belt, this is T3TV. I'm your host, John Wazinski, alongside Dan Rady.
What is up?
And Steve Buddha Gibson.
Sup?
What is going on, gentlemen? How are you tonight?
I am fantastic.
Tired.
All right. Well,
Ready for sleep.
yeah.
Dan is a bitch.
All right. Getting things started here. Not too much on the news front. I did see an interesting article today going over on Google News, but it says that Beyond Meat strikes a deal with McDonald's, and I guess Beyond Burger is going to be sold at McDonald's now, so get your soy-based patties.
Have you ever had one of those?
I have, and I don't think they were all that bad.
Did it taste like the regular sandwich?
The only thing that I noticed on it was that it tasted very similar. Like if they were striving to hit the charbroil flavor from Burger King,
Mm-hmm.
and so it just tasted like they had like really tried to interject that like charred broil flavor into the meat. Other than that, though, it was pretty good. By you, Buddha.
No, I have not. I try to stay away from soy. It's I have testicles, so there's that.
I mean, given what your diet is, though, like, is that a good alternative for you?
Soy's not really a good alternative for anybody. It's really not that good for you. Plus, it's one of the most heavily genetically modified. So, try to stay away from that stuff.
All right. Not seeing too much else here worth talking about. Obviously, yeah. You go through the health pages, same stuff that's everyone else is talking about. And although I will say, though, in the science pages right now, there's a lot of stuff being talked about as far as space and
Did either of you guys watch that video from the Mars landing stuff?
Yeah, that was amazing.
No, I did not.
I just can't.
It's actually really cool.
Like the fact that they can, what did they say? There's like an 11-minute delay between picture feed and video feed from Mars and Earth. But just the fact that like they can control like explosions and jets and all that stuff from Earth is just incredible.
I think, to me, what's kind of crazy is all of the sci-fi stuff that you've seen just growing up, even in bad movies in the 80s when they would ever talk about Mars, that's basically what it looks like. Like, they pretty much hit the nail on the head. Like Total Recall, that's pretty much what Mars looks like. I mean, minus the 3-boob alien colony thing, but...
But it looks like just a red desert.
Yeah. It's like... I wasn't really surprised because I guess I was always just kind of groomed for it to actually look like that. And then it did. And I was like, wow. But then when you actually look at the pictures, you're like, that's really cool. And there was another thing, I guess, kind of like what you were saying, however long that delay is. I thought it might have been a little bit different, but I guess from the time that it like enters orbit, they lose all connection with it. And basically... it's like 7 minutes or 11 minutes or however long it is until it lands and reconnects. They don't know in that time whether it's actually going to like be destroyed and not work or actually work and then it reconnects. So there's like this all of this work that's put into this, and then you're just hanging in pure silence for minutes before you know if it was a success or not.
Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Oh. I was gonna say, what's the temperature up there?
Substantially colder. What's it, like negative 84 degrees or something? I read about that today. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, their atmosphere is, I guess, a lot thinner than ours. Hence, it doesn't trap heat in as much. If I'm correct, again, not a astronomer. Astrologist is the
Read
That's
the
the
stars.
and horoscopes. Yeah, not that either. So, but yeah, other than that, a lot of stuff to do with space in the front page of Google News.
Also, the one thing is they said just like talking, because everything is so much denser or so much more dense, that your voice would be like you just did a bunch of duster.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was one of the things that I read too, just because of how dense it is.
And then also I did see something about that too. And again, this is off of IGN's website, but there was a hidden message in the parachute, which I guess has already been decoded. I'm hearing like a weird popping sound. I don't know if you guys are hearing that.
No, I don't hear nothing.
No, I'm not hearing it.
But yeah, I can't read it. So there, the parachute was encoded to say "Dare mighty things." So kind of cool. Like somebody had encoded that into the parachute, and somebody ended up figuring that out. But I don't know who'd have picked up on that. But there you have it.
Well, one of the things I also thought was pretty cool is the sunset or sunrise up there is actually blue.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah, there's a picture of it.
Is that
Never heard that
from the other rovers? Because I've been seeing a video circulating where they've rendered all of the photos in 4K.
Yeah,
So-
it was that one.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
I must have missed that.
it was like 12 minutes long or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
But so yeah, and the Perseverance's mission is to just basically look for signs of life in the past on Mars. So
Well, they found all those like channels and whatnot. I guess you could call it erosion, where they said water would have once been.
all right. Well, also I read in the news this week the cicadas are coming back this year in Northeast
Yeah.
Ohio. So
I heard something about that.
yeah, I think it's the last time they were around is like 2004 or 5, one of the two. But
Yeah,
so,
well, what is it,
these
every
ones bite?
17 years?
yeah.
Okay, I thought there was two styles of them. I thought these ones actually can bite you. Or is that something else I'm thinking of?
Yeah, it says cicadas to reemerge for the first time in the U.S. In 17 years. So let's see, what is it? 17.
Well,
years
if Dan is correct, then this, considering it's after 2020, these cicadas are going to come back like fucking tremors.
yeah, and Dan, I believe you're right. I believe one of them does bite you, but
That's what I thought I read.
I'm not sure it's this one. But yeah, and so I think they said May we should start to see these, but
Oh.
Yeah, I think it's when the ground thaws, so whenever that is.
and
So
yeah.
you take a bike ride or a hike in the woods after there, and you're walking over a million carcasses under your feet.
The only thing that sleeps longer than the cicadas is Freddy.
Dude, 17-year cycle. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Laid eggs hatch in 6 to 10 weeks. The tiny nymphs fall to the ground, burrowing in, and then start the 17-year cycle again. Crazy. And you can eat them too. Dried cicadas provide a crunch with a nutty, earthy taste. Who the hell wants to eat that?
Oh, my
You
God.
can eat them.
Oh,
I mean, I'm not going to eat them. But
It can't be that bad.
a group, and this is also off of usatoday.com, but a group at the University of Maryland even published a periodical cicada cookbook titled Cicadalicious. So, featuring
they did.
recipes for dishes such as cicada dumplings, Emergence cookies, and El Chirpo tacos. So,
Oh my god.
well, it's not the only thing crunchy on that taco shell there.
I'm not that brave, man. No way. I'd rather eat grass than eat
All right.
one of those.
So you tell me, a Beyond Burger or a cicada,
A Beyond Burger.
Cicada's all natural, all that protein.
right? Would you do
It's
a
gluten free, right, Buddha?
I would fucking hope so.
So you got a cicada on a Beyond Burger. So,
Oh man.
You got to pay extra for that.
right. All right. So who's taking the lead tonight?
Well, hang on. I got one
All right.
thing that I wanted to talk about. John, I don't know if you were so much into this as Al was, but Diablo, did you play that, or was that mostly Al?
That
I
was
know
Al.
Al did.
Yeah.
Okay.
I played Diablo too.
Did you?
For a
Diablo
little bit, yeah.
Diablo 2 Resurrected was announced and confirmed and coming out this year, and it basically what they did, it is Diablo 2, like the exact Diablo 2, that they just basically overlaid 60 frames per second and then just upgraded everything to 3D. But the fact that it's the old game and the old mechanics running, because they wanted to be faithful to the new they wanted to be faithful to the old style, but still give it a facelift. So it's technically a remaster. It's not a remake, but because they're actually running the whole, like the old, what's the word? Like the engine for it. They're actually,
Right.
or you can just like with in the settings, you can just revert back to the original Diablo 2, like graphics and everything, or
Oh, that's pretty cool.
you can just play the new one. And of course, like with the new one, they remastered all the sounds and like added more ambiance and footsteps, nature sounds, stuff like that. But it's all 3D as well. It looks fantastic. And I'm pretty pumped about that.
Sweet.
And obviously
Coming
like
out for
it's going to be consoles and PC.
nice.
So, and then they're going to have cross-play as well, which is pretty cool. That actually, the cross-play might be Diablo 4, which also looks phenomenal, but you're not going to see that for a couple years.
Oh, I thought, I know 3 came out in 2011 or something? 2012?
3 came out for PS3 originally, so it's that old.
Yeah, it's got to be almost 10 years, if not 10 years old by now.
Diablo 3 was such an abortion. It was just so bad. And I think that like Blizzard realized that they just were terrible with that. And then when they came out and announced Diablo Immortal, like at the initial announcement, everybody was like, what? And like the dude just got no feedback. It was just awful. And that's a mobile game. So people that were, waiting for the announcement for Diablo 4 were just let down for so long. And then they finally announced it in 2019, which I don't understand why they do this. Like, so they announced Diablo 4 in 2019 and now it's 2021 and you're starting to get updates for it. But then they're like, hey, you might, in very, very large, bold, might see this in 2022, but probably not. It's probably going to be like a 2023, 2024 release. And like at that point, like, why did you even come out 5 years prior to a release? That's the same thing they did with the old one, though. The Diablo 3 was the same way. Like, I never understood that. Like, if you're going to hype a game up the year that it's going to come out, hype it up. Get your pre-orders in. Don't do it for 5 years and then everyone loses interest and then gets it back and then loses interest and then gets it back.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
I don't understand that.
I don't know. I mean, when they did the RE3 remake, like, I think they announced it in October or November and it was coming out in April. So, I mean, I think that's a fair enough timeline, but yeah. So, all right. Who wants to take the lead tonight?
I'll go. I'm just because my story is not really. It's not a story. It's just a debate, and it'll be done very quickly here. So, you mind, Boot, if I go, or do you want to go?
I don't care. Mine's pretty short too.
Okay. Well, I'll go over. So basically, what I'm going to go over here is 5G. Is 5G bad for the planet? And this has been something that's been talked about quite a bit for the last several years. Actually, it's gotten a lot more pressure, not more pressure, but more it's been viewed a lot more now with 5G. 2019 and 2018 when 5G was being announced and developed, they were really getting more into this. The scientists and people that were worried about the EMF, the electromagnetic fields that come out of the radiation that comes out of these phones, from the satellites, not from the phones, but from the satellites and the antennas and everything. So basically, what this is going over is just the simple fact that basically over 200 scientists from 40 different countries a few years ago appealed to the UN, the United Nations, and the World Health Organization to let them know that this is a serious thing that needs to be really looked at. Now, it's not surprising that, of course, what is driving 5G? It's not science. It's not anything like that. It's government and industry. That's because what do they want? They want the dollars, obviously, right? And of course, they're also trying to make internet, better, faster, phones. So many people, especially in 2020. I mean, everyone was on the internet in 2020 and using their phones and shit like that. So it's obvious why they've done that, but there's so many bad things that 5G that emits. For example, the emits. Tripping over my words here. 5G emits high frequency, which is between 30 gigahertz and 300. The antennas have to be much closer in proximity to each other than the old 4G antennas. There has to be a lot more of them, a cluster of them together, so that they can talk to each other, basically, unlike the old 4G or 3G that you had in the past. So that's going to amplify a lot of the electromagnetic fields in the area. Right now it says, and this is stuff I've pulled up from different research that other people have done, so I haven't done all this myself, but U.S. telecoms currently use around 31 million megawatt hours of electricity annually. 5G is estimated to consume up to 3 times the energy it takes to power LTE networks. So there's going to be a lot more energy being used for 5G, obviously. And it has the effects. What scares me about it a little bit is the effects it has on what it can have on people and even insects and animals. Like, they for sure know it affects the behavior of honeybees. They've said this for years now. Birds, frogs, fruit flies, basically insects like that. It has effects in children, with autism, things like that. They've also have research that shows it has an alteration in heart rhythm, altered gene expression, altered stem cell development, obviously cancer, DNA damage, and the list goes on and on. There's even a lot more stuff. I'm not going to go over everything. So, the scientists have appealed to the industry and to the governments to say, look, this needs to be at least looked at better. It's not saying necessarily that the EMF waves are going to cause everyone to get cancer and die. I mean, it's not what it's saying. It's saying that it does cause a problem to the environment. It still is going to have an effect somewhat on people. And, even the satellites up in space, they're saying the, what is it called? I can never say the word, magnosphere, the Earth's magnosphere. Am I saying it right?
I don't even know.
Yeah, I'm not sure which part of the atmosphere you're talking about.
It's I'm trying to say how to describe. It's basically near where the satellites are up in space. They say that can have it's going to have some kind of, it could have a possible, I think this is getting real sci-fi out there. I don't know what examples they have on this, but basically it can cause a lot of problems to the environment. And, I just wanted to bring it up. This is all stuff that's been said now for the last couple of years with 5G. Just wanted to bring it up as a debate, either people listening or, get some information from you guys and see what you guys think of, what they've come up with and, get a debate going on it. Don't all talk at once.
I think I haven't looked too much into this, but I have heard a lot between both sides. And the problem is, like, inevitably, it all does come down to money. So,
right.
Judging by prior, how can I word this the best way? Prior investments, I guess, that were possibly known for or touted as the betterment of something, whether it's in the U.S. or any other state or I'm sorry, any other country. You know, you always have the, oh, well, this could happen, but, you know, it's always like that disclaimer where they don't really give a shit if anything bad happens. But as long as they put that out there and said, oh, well, the chances of anything happening is so slim to none. I mean, you can talk about pipelines, like how many oil spills, how many thousands of gallons of oil are dumped into the ocean. Like how many times has the Keystone leaked? You know what I mean? Like that's of course, oh, well, it's cleaner and it's better than anywhere else in the country, but it's still going to cause fucking problems. You know, like, so with this, I would think that especially with the amount of money that it's going to cost for the infrastructure for this, they have enough money to pay off whoever they need to pay for someone to say that it's safe. And the problem being that the people who are there to make that call and say, yes, this is safe, or yes, we approve this, are still people. So, you know, ultimately, how much is it going to cost for you to say, it's safe enough? You know, now that being said, like, of course, there's always the studies of like, I mean, I've heard or I've read before that like it kills birds that are anywhere near it. People around it are, you know, developing skin cancer because of the high doses of radiation. And from what I've seen, it's like how you had mentioned the towers, it's because it's short waves, so they can't travel as far, which means more waves in a concentrated area. You know, more waves in a more concentrated area. Is that increasing some type of exposure? Well, of course, but like, is that different than any of the amount of other shit you have in your house at any time? You know what I mean? Like any of those radio waves or electromagnetic anything? Like, I don't know, maybe. Like, I'm not a scientist as far as that stuff is concerned.
Right, me either. One thing that I thought one of the scientists had said, with the 5G, when it's up and running completely, like when they get it all, it's going to be the same as if you went into your house, turned on your microwave, opened the door, you were able to keep your microwave open with the door on and just leave it on for the rest of your life with the microwave on inside your house. And that's what one of the scientists said. Another thing I read too, by 2025, I think, they expect to have 70 million towers up.
Is that just in the U.S.?
No, that's worldwide. That's worldwide. But still, that's a lot.
Yeah,
of towers.
no, I mean, still, that's crazy.
Yeah, 70 million. So
I mean, I guess like one of the other things that is a huge concern is even, do you remember like when they were saying how there was no link between people living under power lines with like birth defects and like the rise of cancer? Like how long was that touted as safe? I mean, it's still being done, and there's literal like documented cases of these people being paid off in settlements. You know what I mean? Or your companies having to take care of their medical bills for the rest of their life because they live too close, or when when the towers were put in or whatnot. Whatever. Or is it the towers or the more concentrated, like the stations, the substations? Is it those, or is it literally just living under like the power lines?
What are you talking about? Oh, you're talking about the power line? I think it was actually living under the power lines.
Okay. Well, I mean,
what I remember hearing.
I mean, how long was that told it was safe for everybody before people started taking it seriously that no, this is causing problems? Like, is that going to be 5G? You know, is that going to be a thing?
And here's the thing too, which it's a great point. And because everyone has to have their cell phones. The unfortunate thing is it's a necessary evil that's never going to go away, unfortunately, because people aren't going to stop, you know, unless they somehow come up with a way of making it safer somehow, you know, years and years and years down the road. But cell phones are never going to go away, smartphones and 5G. As a matter of fact, I think in Japan, they're already, or China, one of those, they're creating 6G, or they're getting ready to create 6G already. So they're ahead of us on that. But I was reading here, the towers are about a quarter of the size of a standard 3 or 4G cell tower. And many point to this as a reason why it's not so bad. That's why some people say it's not so bad. But there's large clusters of them where before you just had one tall 4G tower and that was it. This one's going to have towers within a more condensed area of each other, which is going to create more of supposedly could create more EMFs.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's one of those things where you're never going to get a clear cut answer unless it happens like with the power line stuff where people are just getting documented cases of
Right.
this is causing problems. And like even if you take the cell phones out of the equation, everyone else is still going to be affected by it whether you carry a cell phone or not, because that stuff is
Right.
still everywhere around you.
That's
so
the
it's
point.
not even
Yes.
like you can
Yep.
get away from it.
Right. That's the whole point. Yeah, it has nothing to do with the fact you could never even have a cell phone and still have the EMFs.
Right. I mean, so I think like another thing is you don't even get a say in the matter. It's just happening regardless of whether you want it or not.
Right. And we've asked for it, not us personally, but because for that need of having faster computers, better cell phones, faster video games, everything, all that need to have that and people wanting that is creating that's where 5G came from and why we went from 1G. 1G when it came out, literally all 1G was capable of doing was making phone calls. That was literally it. 2G, which came out in the late 90s, extended it to where you could, we needed our voicemails. We wanted to have a little bit of internet. Somehow we could get to the internet, even though we didn't have a smartphone. There's where 2G came in. And then, of course, 3G and then 4G, it went up from there. But we've asked for this. And unfortunately, like you said, it's not going to change. It's going to get worse. I don't know what the answer is, but I think you're right. I think it'll be a situation where you see people getting cancer that never smoked, never did anything bad, never did drugs, never drank, and they've exercised, they eat healthy, and they still die of cancer or get cancer. Well, that has to be looked at, and it's not a genetic.
Well, I mean, think about this: the World War II generation, they're living to their 80s, 90s, typically. You know, mm-hmm. And think about the last 10 or 15 years. A lot of those people are burying their children. And think about what has happened post World War II. You have people that are younger than their parents dying. What's changed in that amount of time between World War II and really like the 1980s? You got to think processed foods. A lot of people are ingesting, foods with chemicals and preservatives that necessarily weren't a thing, in the 1940s. It didn't really start to become a major thing until the 50s and 60s. So you've got people ingesting preservatives and just stuff that's not necessarily fresh, coupled with the fact of like the way that the world is communicating. Yes, we're turning the earth into a microwave oven, and so people are not going to live as long due to things like that.
You're absolutely right. And then the lack of exercise. I mean, people just sit in their house and play. They literally play video games. Kids, they play video games from, the morning till night. They don't even they never leave their house. They don't get any fresh air. I mean, even when we were growing up, man, we weren't like that. I mean, we played maybe a couple hours of video games, but we were out doing stuff the entire. I was never home. That's funny because I was talking to somebody, this girl I know from work. I was talking to her and she was like, "Oh yeah, she watches The Office, and I can't stand The Office. It's not my kind of show." And then she mentioned the other show, Big Bang Theory, and I think Big Bang Theory is kind of funny. But the point is, she mentioned these episodes, and I was telling her, I said, during the time that those TV shows were on, I was never in my house. I was never hardly ever at home watching television. I was either working. When I wasn't working, I was out and about doing stuff. But it's the point that we were always out and about. What I'm trying to say is we were all doing shit at the time. And now people just literally sit at home and watch TV all day.
Yeah. No, people have gotten lazier. Plus, I mean, they're, even think about how we communicate, and most communications done through, written records via text message. Before, you'd have to be at home on a computer. Well, I mean, that was always reserved for like late night. You'd come home after being out all day, and you would be, dialing up and chatting with people on Instant Messenger, and so. But yeah, like I said, I think it has to do a lot with what we eat, how we, how we entertain ourselves. I mean, people, yes, you're right. They used to go outside and do sports or some sort of physical activity to entertain themselves. Hobbies, playing music, building skills. And now, the skills are being, YouTubers and gamers and, Major League Gaming, that's a crazy thing. Right. And so, how the world has entertained itself, how it's fed itself, how it's communicated. Before, you used to have to, people, I will literally call them, they will not answer, but then send me a text saying, "What's up?" I'm like,
yes,
I don't understand. Like, I want to have a conversation. I don't want to have to, type.
Yep.
And, what happened to those kind of things? And so, the world has changed how so much in such a short amount of time. You got to think like, look at, we didn't have the first flight, I think, until 1903 or 1906. And within 63 to 66 years, we were landing on the moon,
Right.
And so, the world has, it grew so fast in such a short amount of time. But, I'm going on a weird tangent here, but I guess, it's weird. And I don't know if 5G is bad. It's like, how do you even measure that? And how do you measure the long-term effects or the short-term? This world has become such a short-term society. Think about it. There's built-in obsolescence all around you. Your cars, your tangible goods, like, a car, a washing machine, those things were built to last. There's people, there's houses, for sale that were built in the 50s and 60s with the original appliances still in them and that work. And that you don't see that anymore. Everything's built to break easily, or everything has a shelf life. And so,
they know when that warranty is
right.
out.
Yeah. And so it's built in obsolescence so that you need to replace it. And, also,
except for my computer.
Right. Well, but yeah, everything is done in the short term now versus the long term. Everybody's short term mindset. Jobs are turning into gigs. They're not turning into careers. And so you might work at a place for a year to 5 years. And then when that project's done or those projects are done, you go to the next gig. And so you think like, very few people I know are at a job longer than, 5 years.
Yeah, I think the job thing is a topic separate of itself, though, because there's no loyalty from employers to employees to warrant loyalty from an employee to an employer.
Well,
it's very few and far between. I mean, I've had a lot of jobs in my life, and I've really only had one, which is what I'm currently doing, that I actually felt like they gave a shit. And I know, like, every job you're going to have frustrations and annoyances and stuff like that. But, like, John, I know you know what I'm talking about. Ray, to you too. Like, dude, how many times have you gone into a job and just been miserable just knowing every day that you're replaceable?
But that's what I'm saying. Like, it's just the shelf life. Everything is so short term. Nothing is long term anymore.
Right. Like you said, people would work at the same company for 40 years and retire from it, and then their kid would work there for 30 years and retire, and it was generational even.
I mean, now companies don't even last that long.
That's true. Yeah.
Obsolescence built in.
Yeah, but you also have a lot of, to not go down that rabbit hole, but you have a lot of, like, just the big business and corporate stuff that's pushing the little guy out. That stuff wasn't as big as it was, back in the day, like in the 40s and 50s, you only had maybe like a few big corporations, like Ford, GM, like
General Motors,
when you went and worked there, like you stayed there for it, like forever. That was your job. That was your career. Like nowadays, I mean, all the big businesses, I guess that's kind of a bad example, but like there's not a lot of hardware stores. Like even the hardware stores now are a chain hardware store. You know what I mean? Like if you're either going to a True Value or an Ace, and that may have been, you know, generic guy's hardware store in the 70s, but now they had to be part of a franchise. So it's Ace or, you know, so-and-so's Ace hardware. Like you're still buying into a franchise. Otherwise, you're going to Home Depot, you're going to Lowe's, you're going to Menards. Like that just, it's all that big business is just pushing out the small businesses, you know, and small businesses, like they're not making enough money to support someone that's going to be there for 30, 40 years because they're going to want to make more money. You know, it's just, it's become just this climate is just so hard to make a business that isn't a corporate or a big business that you can stay at for 30 or 40 years and make a decent living. It's just, it's way harder to do now, you know, than it was in the 40s and 50s when everything was a small business.
And it really does go. I mean, those are great points that you both brought up, and it's just like it goes to it does kind of. You said you don't want to go in the rabbit hole, but really, it does bring us back to the whole why 5G is even here and why this is, because as a generation, our generation, definitely the generations, you know, ahead of us, the old-fashioned way of doing things. Yeah, I'm all for moving ahead. I love technology. But like you said, or John said, actually, we've gone so far. So we've actually moved way too quick. We've moved quicker than we know what we're doing. I mean, it's scary because nobody knows what, like you said, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, we don't know what's going to happen. People didn't think about that stuff in the 30s and 40s and 50s. They didn't worry about where their next smartphone was coming from or if they're going to get home and play video games. And I thought about that too, John. The average lifespan, I guarantee, right now the average life is 80-something years old, 80, 81 years old, okay? And I
thought it
guarantee...
was 78. I'm pretty sure it's 78 for men.
Maybe it's 80 for women, but I thought it was 80. But regardless, I guarantee that age, as our generation gets older and the younger, it's going to go down. Average age will probably go down to 70 because there's only so much medical technology and science can do to save people from themselves. And I absolutely agree. Getting off the 5G just for a second, but I absolutely agree that I think people are so unhealthy anymore. And COVID, absolutely, I'm not trying to bring it up. I know I said I wasn't going to bring it up, but it hasn't helped people's health because people are sitting in now more and more than they ever were before.
Well, I think, like, to lend more to your point, like COVID really just highlighted everything that's wrong with our healthcare system on top of like the shit that everybody already knows. Like there isn't much there in regard to mental health. And I think, you know, stress in general, which is definitely killing people. But now, like the fact that people don't even have an outlet and for whatever reason, they're choosing to abide by all of this bullshit going on. But the fact that they don't have an outlet and anything nowadays that is met for mental health, they just throw pills at it instead of like getting to the root of the problem and being like, why are you unhappy? You know, do you have a genuine chemical imbalance that does need to be treated? Or are you just being a little bitch because you've been pampered your whole fucking life? You know, no, but I'm serious. Like how many
usually
people,
the latter.
Yeah. How many people when you went to high school, oh, I'm depressed. No, you're just a little bitch and you need to man the fuck up. Like you've had it so fucking easy your entire life. And now that you're not getting every little thing that you want, suddenly my life is so hard. I'm depressed. I'm upset. It's like, no, you need a dose of reality. Like people back in the 50s and 60s and, you know, even after that 70s and 80s, like, you know, it started to get a little crazy then, but just for the point that everything now is treatable with a pill instead of saying, well, hang on, you know, what's the real problem here? They just throw pills at it, which then, you know, is just essentially a pill mill. And people don't care because they say, oh, well, I'm making money selling medicine. and people just keep taking it because they go, oh, give me them pills. That makes me forget about all my problems. And then your problems are still there, and then you're still fucking stressed. Like, you're not actually solving anything.
And then when they get off the pills, or they don't take it for whatever reason, they go crazy and end up shooting up somewhere or doing something crazy and killing some people. When back in the day, when you were mentally disturbed, you know what they did? They threw you in an insane asylum back in the day, which are
Well,
gone
I mean,
now.
that has its own problems, of course.
Well, yeah.
I think this conversation's taking me there.
I'm
Anyway,
done.
no. Anyway, but yeah, who knows? Are we ever really gonna know what damage it's doing? No, we probably won't know until it's too late. And you know, with other things, like, you can't. They've basically made it so that you can't sue people for a vaccine that you take. You can't sue people for the internet equipment you bring in your house. You can't sue people for job related hazards. And so I mean, because look at you, I think people have made careers off of, like, mesothelioma, like, and or did you suffer this at the hands of this? Like, everybody's also sue happy too. So nobody's really going to tell you, oh, what's the bad stuff that could happen, because they don't want to get sued. So
Right. Well,
but yeah.
so that's it. So yeah, that was my story.
So Boo, what do you got?
All right, so mine is it's going to be pretty short and to the point, but you'll know what I'm talking about by the time I get to the end of it. So my story is on the disappearance of Amber Hagerman. Oh, bear with me for 1 sec. I know I always do this. I'm terrible at telling stories. You guys got me all wrapped up in that other shit. Actually, I lost my place. Sorry. Shut up. All right, so basically, Amber Hagerman was a footnote on this story, apparently, because I am awful at this. I thought we were going to kind of segue, John. You fucked me up.
I mean, what more do you want me to do? Do you want me to tell them to stop talking?
Yes. Say, Buddha, get your shit together. In a minute or so, we're going to talk about this.
Okay.
I can talk more about it if you want to have.
I'll pause while you prepare.
Yes. Just sit in silence. All right. So basically, Amber Hagen was a small girl from Arlington, Texas, and she went out one day riding her bike with her 5-year-old brother, Ricky, and they were out in a parking lot basically riding their bike, and Ricky started to get concerned that, hey, it's getting kind of late. We should probably go back to Mom. Amber says, no, I want to hang out here, ride my bike for a little bit more. So Ricky just kind of, all right, well, I'm going to leave you here. He rides back home, gets his mom, and she's like, where's Amber? Oh, I left her, at the parking lot. All right, well, we're going to go back and get her. So they go back, and she's gone. Just her bike is in the parking lot. So everybody starts freaking out. They don't know where she is. They can't find her. And there's a man named Jim Kevill, who was one of the people that could see her from the parking lot from his house, and he was outside and said that she was actually abducted by a man. They said, either a white or Hispanic man, like under 6 foot tall, that forced her into a dark truck. So they're kind of freaking out at this point. They're on the news. Like, this stuff's on like front page of the newspapers. Police, FBI are investigating the cases. There's pictures put up everywhere. No one is coming forth. This is going on for a little while, a couple days. The mom, Donna, is on TV just, pleading with a stranger just to let Amber free. And all this goes on for a couple days and just nothing. They can't find her. She's basically disappeared without a trace. 4 days later, a man just like a jogger, unexpectedly finds a body. And it's a naked body. There was blood and bruises all over the body, and her throat was slit. And unfortunately, it turned out to be Amber. So there's a bunch of theories with this, but they ultimately, the case was left unsolved because they investigated for about 10 years and they could never actually find anybody or anything to link enough to the case. The only thing that they did find was that I guess there was like some 78-year-old man that was suspected as it, but nothing ever came from it. And obviously after 10 years, the case has just gone cold. But the reason that I bring this story up is I know it just sounds like another disappearance, murder, or whatever, and it's terrible. But after all of this stuff was happening, and they were talking about it on the TV and talking about it on the radio, a woman calls into the radio station and says, hey, why don't we have a way to kind of notify people and tell them about things that are going on? So they kind of run with that from the radio station, and that actually turns into the Dallas Amber Plan, which was created in 1997. And that is actually why we have the Amber Alert for now. Like that's where it came from, is because this girl was abducted and murdered, and someone called in the radio station and said, hey, there should be a way for people to know, get this word out. And that's what created the Amber Alert.
No shit. Never even.
I wondered.
Yeah, I never looked into that.
I always thought it was just like a generic something.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it was because, a poor girl was abducted and murdered.
So had they ever found out who did it?
No, that it's still unsolved to this day. And obviously at this point, if it was anyone, like I said, the man that was like in his 70s that they suspected, he would probably be long dead, because this happened, 97. 97 is when the Amber Alert was created.
Oh, but the murder happened in 96, right?
96, correct.
Yeah, I just looked it up. Well, why did they not? They suspected him, but they just didn't have enough
They
evidence?
just couldn't find any evidence, yeah.
Okay.
And because of that, like, they didn't really have any leads. And the man, when they said, the guy that Jim Kevill said that he saw, he said someone that was like 20 to 40 years old.
Oh, so that
So,
would definitely leave a 78-year-old out.
Yeah, but I mean, a dude you see from a parking lot, I mean, that's kind of like looking at a thumbnail picture, and then if you enlarge it, realizing that's not what you thought it was, unless
Right.
you got
True.
freaking eagle eyes over there.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Cool. Well, I'm going to kick it over this way. Have either of you ever heard of the Sarco device?
No.
Yeah, I've not.
All right. So this is kind of dovetail into something else, but I wanted to start here because I was talking to somebody today, and it kind of like we were talking about like this subject, and then I'm like, okay, and then I parlayed into the next subject that we'll talk about, but we're going to start with the Sarco device first. So the Sarco device is, or I guess in the foreign language, the Pegasus device, or anyway, the Sarco device is a euthanasia device or machine that is 3D image with a detachable capsule or coffin mounted on a stand that contains a canister of liquid nitrogen for one to commit suicide. This was invented by Philip Nietzsche. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But basically what happens is that the Sarco is short for sarcophagus. It is used in conjunction with an inert gas, nitrogen, which prevents the panic sense of suffocation and struggling before in consciousness, known as the hypercanic alarm response. Long story short is basically it uses liquid nitrogen slowly as it's released, because that's liquid nitrogen is obviously very cold. So what it does is it at some point turns into a gas filling the chamber, basically making the person fall asleep and kind of pass out, like loosely passes out to the point where then they're suffocated because the capsule becomes deprived of oxygen. And so it's the the pitch is that it's a artistic way, and I'm going to go to its website, but it says where art meets its end. The concept of a capsule that can produce a rapid decrease in an oxygen level while maintaining a low CO2 level. The conditions for a peaceful, even euphoric death led to the Sarco's development. And so the idea is, if you take a look at this, it kind of looks like something from Star Trek, where it's kind of like, it's got like a window on it. It could be parked in front. The idea was that if you were to get one of these things, you could park it in wherever you want to, watch the mountains as you go, or put it in front of a lake or whatever. But basically, it gives you a view while you go. Let's see here. My article got closed the window here. Let's see.
So this basically comes as like a kit.
Yeah, and so it's not sold because of obviously legal reasons, but I believe that there's a way for you to 3D print this. You'd have to hire a 3D printer to do it. But in order to use it, users must pass a mental capacity test. This is from the article on this from dezeen.com. I think Dzeen or Dzen. And it just basically says, although users must pass an artificial intelligence power test to determine their mental capacity to open the hatch, details of the test are not specified. According to Nietzsche, the aim of the machine, which was premiered this year at Venice Biennale, is to allow rational adults the option of a peaceful, elective, and lawful death in an elegant and stylish manner.
Wow.
The machine is portable, meaning it can be used to the user's desired location. You can tow it off and have it overlooking the Alps or the lakes. When you're ready to say goodbye, use the code to pull down the canopy, press a button, and you die in a few minutes. It's a very peaceful death, he explained. And so, again, this machine has stirred up controversy on the website. Is it art or ? The elegant design was intended to suggest a sense of occasion of travel to a new destination and to dispel any yuck factor. Let's see. The other design considerations were to devise a system that requires no specialized skills or involvement, no sourcing of difficult to obtain drugs, and no need for medical involvement, the insertion of like intravenous material. So, I don't know. Kind of a weird concept here, but again, euthanasia is controversial subject. Real quick, a couple other notes here from their Sarco's website is, where can I buy Sarco? Sarco is not and will not be at this point for sale. The plans will in due course be published in the Peaceful Pill e-handbook. It will be up to the individual concerned to source a 3D printer and requisite the liquid nitrogen. How much does it cost? Estimated cost via the 3D printing would be about $7,500 US. Is it biodegradable? Parts of it would use biodegradable material that is 3D printed. Where can you get the liquid nitrogen? Liquid nitrogen is generally available from welding and gas supply houses. How does Sarco create a happy hypoxia? Sarco aims to provide a happy hypoxic death. Hypoxia means low oxygen. This means that this is the same as when a plane depressurizes. So, again, and does Sarco have safeguards against misuse? The detailed technical specifications and plans will only be available to will only be available to subscribers to the Peaceful Pill e-handbook. All purchasers of the e-handbook have their ID vetted. A second safeguard is the artificial intelligence mental capacity test that will be incorporated into the design of the use of Sarco. Sarco will only be able to be operated by the person actually inside the capsule. So basically, you can't administer the process unless you are inside it and able and willing to do so. Also, I believe there's a safety net in there so that a countdown starts to. But here, let me go over this a little further. There is also an escape hatch for any last-minute change of mind, and the doors are easily openable from the inside. There is no door lock. To gain entry into Sarco, the person will need a code. This code will be issued after the person has completed an online mental capacity test showing that they understand what they are doing, why they are doing, and the consequences of their actions. Failure to complete the test will result in non-issuance of the essential code. Besides, Sarco will never lend itself to rash, impulsive action. While 3D printing will surely become faster as technology improves, it will never be fast. Use of Sarco will require significant planning ahead. This will serve to protect the vulnerable from acting irrationally. So, again, interesting concept. Whether you agree with euthanasia or not, I think it really comes down to situational.
Can we talk about the fact that they had a disclaimer about misuse? Like, are you just going to die faster? Like, what the fuck? What is going to happen?
I think they're basically going over, like, misuse meaning, like, being irrational or making
an irrational decision, like killing yourself.
That's what I was just going to say.
I think the intended use of the machine is for somebody that's, like, terminally ill and doesn't necessarily, want to have a slow, painful death. I think,
So euthanasia, the topic or like the act in general, I think is 100% like okay. Like it should be up to you. If I was ever in a position where my life was so fucking miserable and I was like just withering away and dying and, you know what I mean? Like, you don't want to watch yourself deteriorate, or if you've ever seen a family member or something deteriorate, like, I don't personally ever want to be in that situation. And if I'm still cognitive enough, or, have enough cognitive function to make that decision before I literally become a vegetable, I don't see the problem with allowing, like, why is it up to anyone else to tell me if I can or can't do that? For
Right.
one, like this, I do understand sort of on how people were like getting arrested for the assisted suicide stuff, because I mean that you could definitely be taking advantage of people, especially if you're given like power of attorney and then you start like redoing the will and all that stuff.
So real quick to interject with you, Philip Nietzsche, who invented this machine, is a former physician and director of the pro-euthanasia group Exit International, based out of Australia's Northern Territory. He campaigned to have a legal euthanasia law passed, and when he did and successfully passed this, he assisted 4 people in ending their lives before the law was then overturned by the government of Australia. Just wanted to interject that. Sorry.
Like, that's kind of what I was getting at. Like, government needs to butt the fuck out. Like, they are not the be all end all. And the fact that they feel the need, these fucking bureaucrats, to tell people this is what you're allowed to do with your life when you're literally doing nothing except making decisions for yourself. Like, God forbid
else, obviously.
Yeah. Like, God forbid, like, anyone is ever lonely enough and in enough pain to even consider doing that, like, for a legitimate reason. Like, if your body is just dead, you know what I mean, withered, gone, but your mind is still there, but like you literally can't do anything, like I wouldn't want to live like that. And that's my opinion. Like, it's not that I'm forcing anyone else to feel a certain way, but like me personally, if I had nothing left to live for, like, what the fuck's the point?
Right.
I wonder.
God, Dan.
I was going to say, I was wondering how I find it interesting that they have the mental capacity test that you have to take, because I mean, and I understand why it's there. I definitely get the idea why it's there, but most people will tell you usually when someone's suicidal, again, different reasons, of course, it's terrible. No one should commit suicide, but a lot of doctors and people tell you there's an imbalance in the brain. There's a problem. I'm just wondering how, and I'm not a doctor, I don't know the details of it, but I'm wondering how they put together this mental capacity test to gauge where somebody is. If they sound like they're insane, do they say, "Oh, we're not going to give you this kit"? If you sound like you're completely not down to earth, but you're completely with it, they give you the kit.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to look at it situational or situationally based every single time they would issue out one of these kits. Who knows if they've even ever issued out one of these kits. I saw this article on here,
Right.
and I thought it was interesting, the fact that, right now it's on display in an art museum, I believe. And so, but again, people are going to do what they want to do. Whether or
Right.
not, the government says yes or no. I mean, if they want to euthanize themselves, there's more than just doing this. I think it's just offering a less messy, maybe like it's advertised, a peaceful way and a way for someone to go out the way they want to.
I wonder if there's any. Did you read in this if they ever did do this product ever came out? Is there any disclaimer or planning on saying, you could, the person can take this thing wherever they want. They can die inside of it and maybe not be found for 2 weeks or a month or a year. Is there a way that they know, hey, we're locating this thing right here? This is you want to be by the ocean in a very secluded area, for example, and you wanted to die looking at the ocean. How do they know? Does somebody know that it's going to be there, or can the person just sit there rotting for?
Well, again, going back to the website here, it's saying that, what did it say? It's going to take a long time to make this, and so
Right.
I would also like to point out I had no idea that you could just go and buy liquid nitrogen.
Yeah, why not?
I don't know. I never had a use for it. I didn't know you could just go buy it.
Freeze and liquid terminators. Yeah, Dan, to go back to what you were saying, it says it will never be fast to make one of these things. Basically, requires significant planning. So, again, if you're going to use this kind of a device, not only it's got to take a while for it to be manufactured, but again, I think it's meant for the more terminally ill. I think but again. Has anyone used this? Who knows? I am having a hard time finding whether or not it was used, but as far as the design and the idea and the concept behind it, it's been marketed and put on display for the public to see. So,
can you sue if it doesn't work?
That was a good point.
You just wake up and you're like, fuck,
it didn't work.
Well, that kind of parlays into the second thing. Okay, so I've been listening to a lot of Reddit text to speech videos on YouTube where people will take Reddit threads, run them through a text to speech app, and then post the videos online. So you can kind of like an audiobook listen to threads of Reddit, and kind of parlayed into this one thread on Reddit that said people who have been clinically dead, what was it like? And a lot of the people that responded to this thread were stating that that there wasn't a bright light or seeing family members or anything like that, but more or less it was just I'll read one here. It says this person basically they attempted suicide by hanging themselves in the garage. It says my vision began stuttering darker and darker until the deepest blackness imaginable. Then it was just peace. I felt calmer than I've ever felt before. I felt happy, like it was a pure blissful experience. After that came the light. So I guess this person, it wasn't solid white light, like headlights in a fog. It wasn't solid white light. It was like headlights in a heavy fog driving at me. I felt my stress and anxiety rushing back. Happiness drained from my body, and I was awake again. So I guess the light was them coming back to life. And so I went through this thread here, and I started looking for similar things. And, this happened to my father. He told me it was just black and that he had the most peaceful, weightless feeling. Then a pinhole of light opened and continued opening back to the world as he felt himself sink back into his body. Other people have said that basically, yes, it's like a deep sleep, dark, very dark. Like I said, the blackest black that you can imagine. Like, I recently saw a video where this guy used the richest black to paint a room, and it was crazy, like how even like a light bulb in that room still looked dark. But anyway, similar to that, and somebody else said that it was like it felt like they were laying in like a warm gel, and like but very peaceful feeling, but none of the traditional stuff that you see in the movies. So
I think the common theme is everybody's pretty pissed off and disappointed that they woke up.
well, and yeah, I mean that too. Yeah, it says somebody new had that void happen to them while they were tripping. I'm gonna skip that one. It says I was in a coma for a few days and died for 3 minutes. In the coma itself was completely empty, no sense of time, no blackness, nothing. Every so often I would come to a little bit and briefly saw hazy flashes. But yeah, I guess if you want to go to this Reddit thread and read them, it's pretty interesting. And like you said, yeah, another common theme is not only it being extremely dark, but people being peaceful, and also at the same time, like reading that they're not afraid of dying and what comes after because they've already experienced it.
So to get way more down this, what do you guys think when you die? What do you think it is? You think there's just nothing? Do you think there is?
It's so hard, man, because my whole life I've been torn in the sense where it's like I really want to believe that there is something, and I'm going to continue practicing that belief because to me, it's maybe more comforting to believe that something's after that. But then after reading this, I'm like, well, that makes a lot of sense. But here's where I started to get like kind of like weird and twisted with it. But okay, so imagine, right? That darkness, right? You can't see anything. It's dark. It's black. People are saying it's warm, kind of like a gel state. What if your consciousness had drifted into another body, right? And that's you in the womb. And it's actually not that you're not dead, but your consciousness is just now inhabiting another being.
So you're talking resurrection.
Not resurrection, but reincarnation.
It's reincarnation.
That's what I meant to say. Reincarnation. That's what I meant. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're talking reincarnation.
But yeah, what if that is what it is?
I've actually heard.
I always wondered about that.
I've heard that, like, and now this was kind of said in jest, but like when you die and you see that light, it's actually you being reborn as a baby.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. That too, and I've not heard that in jest. I've heard that that's actually a real thing.
Now, go ahead, Dan.
Go ahead. I was just going to say real quick, just to go in with the same subject. I've always been fascinated with the fact of reincarnation. And I always wondered, my thought was, see what your guys thinking is, if it is true that would happen, wouldn't you have millions and millions of people? Let's say, for example, it happened to one of us, and you started, you were a baby, but you started getting older. Wouldn't you have memories? Let's say you were born in Russia, for example, and a baby there, and you'd be like, wait a minute, I have memories of Cleveland, Ohio. Wouldn't you be like, I want to go back, and once I get old enough, of age, you started remembering things that you had in your former life.
So though there's three schools of thought on that I have. One of them is, yes, there are documented cases of children knowing things that there's absolutely no possible way they could have known.
The one most famous that I've heard of is that the kid recounted being like, I think it was a World War II pilot, or
yeah, that's one of them.
I've heard that one. Yep.
The second one is Dan, do you remember anything from when you were a baby?
When I was a baby, no.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
my point.
young, but not as a
Maybe you
baby.
did.
Right.
Maybe you did when you were born, but I don't remember shit when I was a baby. I probably don't remember anything
No.
until I was like 5.
Me too. 5, 6
So
years old.
it's-
Right.
It's very possible that you had those, but you just kind of forgot them because you're caught up in living. And the third one being that when you have these crazy dreams, they're actually memories from a different existence. Not like the crazy
That's
like
interesting.
acid trip dreams, but I mean like when you go places in your dreams that you've never been and it's still you, or you meet people that you don't know, but you know them in your dream. Like what if those are
Right.
people from, your prior existences? Like I look at it more so like everything kind of being like energy. So when you are living multiple lives, it's just, to me, that makes the most sense. I can't prove it. Like nobody can prove what happens, but that makes more sense to me than like when you die, you're just dead and gone and new people are being created all the time. Like, I don't understand why, like there's energy in everything. Why wouldn't it just be recirculated?
So
Right.
go ahead, Dan.
Go ahead, John.
No, this kind of takes me back to the old John Lear tapes from Coast to Coast. And one of the episodes he talks about how when Bob Lazar was working at S4, that he had read a document that he wasn't supposed to read. And maybe it's not Bob Lazar, I can't remember, and I'm paraphrasing, but there was a document that basically stated that humans are an experiment by ETs for the soul, and the human body is referred to by the ETs as a container for the soul. And so the experiment basically is to get your soul to be at its most, for lack of a better words, pure. And so your soul will continue to cycle through different bodies and different lives until it's reached its peak potential. And that's kind of one of the things that like the Heaven's Gate people, that next level, was that they had thought that in this life they had reached max potential of their soul. And so when that comet was to come around and that UFO was trailing, if they had died, their spirits would have been caught by that UFO and their souls would have been taken, to the next level. But other theories that circulated in this interview, he also mentioned that the moon had a base on it. Again, believe it or not, I don't know, I'm not saying it's real, I'm not saying it's not real, but the moon had a base on it, and where it was basically a soul processing center. So as you died, your soul was then recirculated back to the moon and then retransmitted and beamed back down into Earth into a new body. And so that was another
right there, man.
dude. But again, yeah, it really is. And so it makes you question at your core, like what's real and what's not.
Well,
and
what?
People that are extremely religious would look at that and laugh, but other people look at people that are religious and laugh and say, okay,
Right.
You're saying that a man in the sky created everything and his son died for you and your sins, yet you think it's crazy that creatures from the sky came down and created you for whatever reason on their behalf.
Right.
I look at it like this, man. You fucking people that are religious, like, not you, but like people that are religious in my experience are some of the most judgmental people that I've ever met. And like, let's just get one thing straight. You literally read from a fucking book that was taken on record from people that couldn't read or write and then told again by people that could barely fucking speak to then be written down again over and over until a king got it and said, you know what, I want to change this version because I like my version better. And then you fucking did the same thing over and over and over. And now here we are hundreds of years later and all of a sudden you have the right fucking version. Like, get the fuck out of here. If you want to believe something as outlandish as what you just said, a dude up in the fucking sky who's watching everything going on with all the evil and bad in this fucking world and allowing it to happen, and then fucking come out here and preach that, oh, it's all part of God's plan while fucking kids are dying of cancer, you're a fucking moron. Like, to not think that nothing else in this world is possible all because your little fucking book doesn't say so.
Well, I mean, again, the argument on both sides, I think, is a fair argument. One of the other things that I've also heard and not really looked into, but I found interesting in some of these talks about aliens, the soul, is that, like, okay, ETs put humans on planet Earth to mine gold, because it is a resource that helps them. I don't know if it's a resource for them on their planet and it was not available anymore. It helps them travel the cosmos, whatever it is. Think about humans and their attraction to gold. What really value does it have other than we like it? It's shiny. It's not really worth anything. It's just a mineral, right? Okay. And so were humans engineered to have this desire for this mineral? Is it a mineral? I don't know. But basically they're engineered to have this attraction to this element. And as long as we're able to mine it and get it for them, we're here to do that job for them on their bidding. And so, and if you were to ask, like, the people that believe this theory, it's like, well, there's no gold in Fort Knox. It's gone and it's taken by them. And there is no gold left. And, whatever we're mining for our personal electronics or whatnot, it's all we really have left on the planet. I'm having a hard time, trying to articulate here, but long story short is that humans' unnatural attraction to gold, like, why is that?
I want to say real quick, getting back to I want to go back just a little bit. You said what happens when you die. I think I might have brought this up on here before. I don't remember or not, but I think it's an interesting subject, and the theory that the late Stephen Hawking had, that when you die, you go to another dimension. Literally, there's hundreds and hundreds of dimensions out there that you're going into, and your mind and your soul goes to another dimension, and it lives out there in this other dimension. I don't know the full details, but that's, he said that's what he believes happens, and I think there's definitely something that can be said to that.
I think, like, there's so many theories, to discount any of them is merely just because you just choose not to believe, because you can't prove or disprove any of them. Like, for all I know, for all I know, there is some dude up in the sky calling the shots. And okay, like, if that's what you want to believe, that's cool. Like, you do that. Right. But I think it's just wrong to shit on anybody just because they don't believe the same way that you believe.
Right. I agree. And I just remember reading that this was something else. This was, I don't know if you guys saw this. This was maybe a couple months ago, 3 months ago. Scientists, hundreds of scientists, said that there's evidence. I don't know if there's evidence that we are actually in I don't want to say a video game, but we are actually a
simulation.
Thank you, simulation. That's what I was trying to say. Did you read that?
I've heard that before.
They came up with recently saying that they actually feel that it's true. It's not just a theory, that they think there's some sort of, and again, I can't remember what the article said, but there's some sort of evidence or theory that they have that they actually believe that we are just a big giant, we are just a simulation, basically.
I mean, isn't life in general kind of just a simulation, though?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you consider that you don't have, in reality, how much control of your life do you have? In reality, you have control of your life when you're in your house.
Right? You have control over as much as you think you have control over.
Right. You don't have control if you're on the road, you're sitting on the road going to work and some drunk ass driver slams in the back of your vehicle and blows your vehicle up. You can't control what that guy's doing. He's going to run into you. You know what I mean? Or, something like that happens. You're walking in a crosswalk and someone runs you over, a car goes out of control, whatever. What control do you really have? So yeah, I mean, it is true. It is like a simulation, really.
I mean, you have control over you. That's it. I mean, thinking that you have control over other people or the world as a whole, like, doesn't even make sense.
Right. Everyone's got control of themselves. That's what I'm saying. You should have control of yourself. I'm just saying the stuff that's happening around you, you can only control that so much is what I'm saying. That's, it can, obviously that's obvious, but it can interfere with your life and kill you and make you sick or whatever if there's something that happens that you have no control. If you're in a plane and you're up in the plane and the pilot passes out or the motor stops in it, you don't have control over it. The plane's going to crash and you're probably going to die. That's what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah. So again, just to take it back and circle back, the Sarco pod, again, I think it's up to anyone to decide whether or not, euthanasia is good or bad or stylish in this regard, I guess. Again, if you want to check those Reddit threads out, again, the Reddit thread is serious parentheses people have been clinically dead and came back. How was the other side? Well, how was the other side like? And so this was Ask Reddit. So top 200 comments, 2,459 comments total on the thread. Interesting stuff. Again, if you're ever curious to look into the unknown. But you guys got anything else for this week?
I think pretty much covered it.
Yeah, I think it was pretty interesting. Again, tune in every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We go over current events to some degree and a weird story from each of us. If you have any suggestions for stories or anything that you'd like to hear us cover, please leave it in the comments. I'm not going to bombard people with the like, share, comment, subscribe thing because, I mean, if you want to do that, sweet.
You just did.
Well, but you see like all those videos that have like the weird thumbnail of like someone like pointing at something going, uh-oh. And then every video is like, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button.
Right.
Stoke the algorithm. Listen, we do this because we got nothing better else to do. So, anyway, Thursday nights, 8 p.m. For Dan Rady, Steve Gibson, I'm John Mazinski. This is Type 3 TV. Over and out.